The restaurant was a place where silence cost more than conversation, a cathedral of wealth and exclusivity. Crystal chandeliers dripped light like liquid gold over marble tables, and every whisper felt rehearsed, every smile rehearsed. At the corner table sat Daniel Whitmore, a billionaire whose face often appeared on magazine covers under headlines like "The Man Who Owns Tomorrow." But tonight, even with all the glitter of success, he felt hollow, like a mansion echoing without laughter. He stirred his black coffee, ignoring the untouched steak on his plate. The board had approved another billion-dollar merger that afternoon. The world saw him as unstoppable. Yet, as he stared at his reflection in the glass, all he saw was a man trapped by his own empire. And then a small, hesitant voice broke through the hum of perfection. Excuse me, sir?" Daniel looked up. Standing near his table was a little black girl, maybe 8 years old, wearing a faded pink hoodie 2 sizes too big and holding a brown paper bag. Her hair was tied in uneven puffs, her sneakers worn, her eyes wide but brave. "Can I eat with you?" she asked softly. The room froze. Forks stopped midair. A few waiters exchanged alarmed glances. A security guard started to move forward, but Daniel raised a hand. "It's okay," he looked at her, really looked. She wasn't begging. She wasn't even crying. She was just hungry. He gestured to the seat across from him. "Sure, have a seat." The first meal, she climbed into the chair like it was the softest place she'd ever sat. Her feet barely reached the edge. Daniel noticed her trying to hide her excitement as she scanned the menu she couldn't read. He smiled. "What would you like to eat?" She shrugged shyly. "Anything warm." The words hit him like a punch. "Then we'll get something warm," he said. He waved the waiter over. "Bring her the best meal you've got, and hot chocolate." When the food arrived, the girl's eyes widened. She whispered, That's all for me." "Yes," Daniel said softly. "All for you." She ate slowly at first, then faster, her hunger breaking past politeness. He didn't stop her. He just watched. Not with pity, but with something like shame. After a few bites, she looked up. "Thank you, mister." "You're welcome," he said. "What's your name?" "Amira." "That's a beautiful name," she smiled, showing a missing front tooth. "Mommy says it means princess, but she's not around much." He hesitated. "Where is she?" "She's trying to find a job. Sometimes she does, but then she gets sick. So I wait at the shelter." She looked down at her plate. "I came here because it smells nice. I thought maybe if I asked nice, someone would let me sit for a bit." Daniel swallowed hard. "Do you come here often?" She shook her head. "No, the guards usually don't let me in. I think they thought I was lost today." He smiled gently. "Then maybe you were meant to find me instead." A change of heart as Amira finished her meal. She started telling him about the world as she saw it. The park she liked because the swings squeaked in a funny way. The cat behind the shelter she named Queen Whiskers, and the way stars looked brighter when she didn't have dinner. Daniel found himself laughing for the first time in months. Not the polished laugh he gave reporters, but a real one, from somewhere deep. When she finished, she wiped her mouth carefully with the napkin, mimicking the people around her. Then she looked at him and asked the question that cracked something open inside him. "Do you eat alone every night?" Daniel blinked. "Most nights, yes." She frowned, confused. "But you're rich," he chuckled sadly. "Money doesn't buy company, Amira." She nodded seriously, like she understood more than she should. Then she said softly, "You can eat with me next time. Don't have much, but Mommy says sharing makes food taste better." Something in his chest tightened. He had built towers, bought companies, and owned private islands. Yet this little girl with nothing had just offered him the purest kind of wealth. The search when Amira left that night, after thanking him again and promising to wave at him if she ever saw him on TV, Daniel couldn't sleep. Her words echoed in his mind. "You can eat with me next time." The next day, he called his assistant. "Find out everything you can about a little girl named Amira. She's around 8, probably living near the East Shelter." It took 2 days. When he arrived at the shelter, the workers recognized him instantly. Cameras followed, but Daniel ignored them. "Is there a girl named Amira here?" he asked the head volunteer. The woman nodded sadly. "Yes, but her mother was hospitalized last night." They don't have anyone else, his heart sank. Can I see her? He found Amira sitting on a bench, hugging a stuffed rabbit missing one ear. Her eyes lit up when she saw him. You came back. I said I would, he said with a smile. And I brought something for you. He handed her a warm box of food, the same meal she'd eaten that night. She gasped. It's my favorite. He sat beside her. Your mom's gonna be okay. I'll make sure of it. Amira looked up, uncertain. You can do that, he nodded. I can try my best. The miracle of small things days turned into weeks. Daniel paid for Amira's mother's treatment quietly. No press, no publicity. He visited them often, bringing books and warm clothes. Slowly, the hospital visits became dinners, then walks in the park. People started to notice the change in Daniel. His staff said he smiled more. His board meetings were shorter. He even started a new project, a foundation called the Amira Initiative, dedicated to providing shelter and education to homeless children. When reporters asked him what inspired it, he simply said a dinner invitation. Amira thrived. Her mother, Latoya, recovered and began working at one of Daniel's hotels. Daniel made sure she never knew just how much help he was giving. He wanted her to feel dignity, not debt. The moment that changed everything one evening a year later, Daniel invited Amira and her mother to a dinner celebrating the launch of his foundation. The event was grand. Chandeliers, cameras, the city's elite gathered in glittering gowns. Amira wore a little yellow dress and shiny new shoes. She looked around the ballroom, whispering to her mom, "It's like a castle." When Daniel took the stage, he glanced at the crowd, then at her. "I've built many things in my life," he began. "But nothing has taught me more about humanity than a little girl who once asked if she could share my meal." The room fell silent. She reminded me that wealth means nothing if it isn't shared. That the smallest act of kindness can heal a heart, or even change the world. He looked at Amira, whose small hand waved shyly. The crowd followed his gaze, and many eyes filled with tears. After the speech, Amira ran up to him and hugged him tightly. "You're not eating alone anymore," she whispered. Daniel laughed softly, blinking back tears. "No, sweetheart, not ever again." Epilogue. The Table of Hope. Years later, a new restaurant opened in the heart of the city, one with no velvet ropes, no dress codes, and no price tags. A sign above the door read, "Amira's Table," where everyone eats together. The walls were decorated with photos of families laughing, strangers sharing meals, children smiling with plates of warm food. Daniel sat at his usual corner. Now older, his hair touched with silver. Across from him sat Amira, now a young woman studying social work. She smiled as volunteers served food to a mix of guests. Executives, students, single mothers, and the homeless, all sharing one space. "Do you remember the first thing you ever said to me?" Daniel asked. Amira grinned. "Of course." I said, "Can I eat with you?" He nodded, eyes misty. "And that question changed my whole life." She reached for his hand. "No, Mr. Daniel, you changed mine. I just gave you a reason." The bell above the door rang as new guests entered. Daniel looked around, at the laughter, the clinking dishes, the music of community, and felt something he hadn't felt in years before her, peace. That night, as they served their last meal, Amira whispered, "Mom always said kindness doesn't need to be big." "Just real," Daniel smiled. And look what real kindness built. Outside, the city lights flickered like stars, and inside, at Amira's table, everyone, no matter who they were, found a seat, because sometimes the smallest question, "Can I eat with you?" holds the power to feed the whole world. 10 years later, the city skyline glittered under a summer sunset, gold brushing against glass towers, traffic humming like a tired lullaby. In the heart of downtown stood a tall building draped in ivy and light. A sign above its entrance read in graceful letters, "The Whitmore Foundation for Hope, founded in honor of Amira and Latoya." Inside, the air buzzed with laughter and music. The annual gala had just begun, but unlike the old days of rigid etiquette and wealth on display, tonight was different. The tables were mixed. CEOs sat beside nurses, teachers beside students, and children beside donors. No barriers, no separations, just people. At the head table sat Amira, now 22, wearing a modest white gown that shimmered softly under the chandeliers. Her curls framed her face, her eyes still carrying that same warmth Daniel saw years ago. Beside her sat Latoya, her mother, proud and teary-eyed, holding Daniel's hand. He was older now, but the kindness in his face had only deepened, the wrinkles etched there by laughter and time, not stress and greed. "Look around, sweetheart," Daniel said softly. "Do you see what one meal started?" Amira's voice trembled. "I see what love built, the speech that changed lives." When the music faded, Daniel walked up to the podium. The room quieted instantly. Cameras pointed toward him, but his eyes were only on Amira. "I used to think success was about owning more," he began, his voice calm but strong. "More buildings, more companies, more respect. But it took a little girl, hungry, brave, and honest, to teach me that real success is about giving more." He paused, emotion catching in his throat. Amira didn't just ask for food that night. She asked to be seen, and in seeing her I found myself again. The audience was silent, some wiping tears, others nodding quietly. She reminded me that kindness isn't charity. It's connection, and when we share our tables, whether they're made of gold or old wood, we remind the world what it means to be human. He turned slightly, gesturing to Amira. "Tonight I'm proud to announce the opening of 10 new community centers, each one called Amira's Table. They'll feed, teach, and employ families across the country. Because no child should ever have to ask, 'Can I eat with you?'" The room erupted in applause. Amira stood, hugging him tightly. "You did it," she whispered. He smiled. "We did it." The final dinner after the gala. When the guests had gone, Daniel, Amira, and Latoya sat together in the empty hall, sharing a simple meal: bread, soup, and tea. No reporters. No lights, just family. "Remember this table?" Amira said softly. Daniel chuckled. "The one where it all started? I'll never forget it." Latoya placed her hand over his. "You didn't just feed my daughter that night. You gave her a future. You gave me hope." Daniel shook his head humbly. "You both gave me something too, purpose." They ate quietly for a while, the clinking of spoons a gentle rhythm. Finally, Amira said, "You know, Mr. Daniel, people always ask me what it felt like that night, walking up to a stranger and asking to eat with him." He leaned in. "And what do you tell them?" She smiled. "I tell them I wasn't asking for food. I was offering a chance for both of us to be less alone." Daniel's eyes glistened. And it worked. The closing scene. A few months later, Daniel passed away peacefully in his sleep, leaving behind not just an empire but a movement. In his will, he left a single handwritten note for Amira. "You once gave me company when I had everything but love. Now I leave you everything that matters, the love we built together. Keep feeding the world with it." Amira took his words to heart. Years later, she expanded Amira's Table across cities and countries. The restaurants became symbols of community and equality, where homeless families sat beside bankers, and strangers became friends over meals that cost nothing but kindness. And every location had a small framed photo on the wall: a young black girl in a pink hoodie, sitting across from an older white man in a suit, both smiling, two souls sharing one table. Underneath, engraved in simple words, it read, "Kindness is the meal that never ends. Sometimes the world doesn't need heroes in capes. It just needs someone willing to make space at their table." Amira once asked a question out of hunger, but what she gave the world was nourishment far greater than food. She gave it heart, and through her, Daniel's legacy lived on, proof that even in a world divided by wealth and walls, a single act of kindness could bridge any distance because, as Amira always told the volunteers at her foundation, the most powerful word in the world isn't please or thank you. It's together. Years rolled on, but the story of that single question, "Can I eat with you?" never faded. It became legend, a phrase that found its way into speeches, books, murals, and classrooms. Children in schools began reciting it as part of kindness projects. Cafés painted it on their walls. Strangers used it as a greeting in Amira's Table restaurants, an invitation, a reminder that connection begins with a simple act of courage. Amira's dream. Amira was now in her early 30s, elegant, wise, and full of warmth. Her hair flowed in curls down her shoulders as she walked through one of her newest restaurants in Atlanta. The walls were painted in soft gold and clay, and the smell of baked bread and spices filled the air. Every table had fresh flowers. Every meal came with a handwritten note from local children that read, "You matter, you are loved. Welcome to our table." She paused near the front door, where a bronze plaque gleamed beneath a spotlight, dedicated to Daniel Whitmore, the billionaire who chose humanity. Amira touched the plaque, her reflection shimmering in it. "We did it," she whispered. The boy who reminded her one afternoon as she was leaving the restaurant, she noticed a little boy sitting outside with a paper bag beside him. He was around 8, thin, wearing an oversized hoodie. His eyes darted nervously between people walking by, hoping for kindness. Amira's heart ached. She walked up, crouched down, and said softly, "Hey there, you doing okay?" He looked up, startled. I'm just waiting for my mom." "She's looking for work," Amira nodded gently. "That's a brave thing to do." He hesitated, then whispered shyly, Can I eat here? I don't have money, but I can help wash dishes or something." For a moment, time froze. The same question, "Can I eat with you?" echoed in her soul like a voice from another life. She smiled, eyes glistening. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "you don't have to earn kindness. Come on in, let's eat together." The shared meal, they sat at a corner table. Amira ordered soup and sandwiches for them both. The boy ate quietly, shy at first, then with growing comfort. When his mother arrived, exhausted, anxious, she froze, seeing her son eating beside a woman she didn't know. Amira stood and smiled warmly. "You must be his mom. Please join us." The woman blinked back tears. "You don't even know us." Amira shook her head. "That's the best part. I didn't know the man who once shared his table with me either, but he changed my life." The woman sat down slowly, emotion softening her features. "You're Amira, aren't you? The one from the stories?" Amira laughed softly. "Just someone who believes kindness multiplies." They talked, laughed, and shared bread until the afternoon sun dipped low. Before they left, Amira handed the woman her card. "Come by tomorrow," she said. "We're hiring. I think we could use someone like you." The woman covered her mouth, crying softly. "Thank you," Amira smiled. "Thank you for reminding me why this all started." Years later, the full circle, 15 years later, the little boy, now a young man named Jordan, stood before a crowd in a vast auditorium, speaking at a global youth summit. Behind him glowed a massive screen reading, "The Table Initiative, Feeding Dreams, Not Just People." "I was 8 when Amira Thompson invited me to eat with her," he said. "That day I learned that love doesn't need introductions. It just needs an open seat." He looked up at the audience of thousands, leaders, students, and dreamers from across the world. "She showed me that the smallest act, offering a meal, sharing time, can change the course of a life. I'm living proof of that." He paused, smiling through emotion. "And today, through the Table Initiative, we're opening 50 new centers in communities that need them most. Because the hunger we're fighting isn't just for food. It's for belonging." Applause thundered across the hall. The final scene, the empty seat later that night. Amira, now older and silver-haired, sat alone at one of her restaurant tables. It was closing time. She placed 2 plates of food, one in front of her, one across the table. "Dinner's ready." "Daniel," she whispered. The lights shimmered softly against the window, and for a fleeting moment, she imagined him sitting there, smiling, proud, his eyes kind. In the empty seat beside her, she didn't see absence. She saw legacy. She lifted her glass, tears glinting in her eyes. "We did it," she said. "They'll never have to ask again." Outside, the sign of Amira's table glowed in the night. The tagline beneath it read, "No one eats alone." And as the city lights twinkled like stars, it felt as if the whole world, rich and poor, weary and hopeful, was finally sitting at one great table, breaking bread together.